evening. You are in time for our exhaustive coverage of the day's events. This is NTV Weekend Edition with me, Smriti Vidyarthi. We are live from the nation's centre and also from the land of milk and potatoes. Your guess was as good as mine, Nyandarua County. Zeynab Ismail is on the other side. Zeynab, what's on the menu?
Indeed, Smriti, we are from the land of milk and potatoes, and of course the fields of, to bring you the county's agricultural potential and a lot as we dig into the prospects of reviving the old railway line and what fortunes it portends for the people here. So much to look forward to this weekend, Smriti.
All right, well, Zeynab, you will be telling us a lot more from the county, serving us with the latest in just a bit. But as you digest on that, let's have a look at the day's top stories. First, the highlights.
Tonight, bringing back sanity on the roads, blocked roads, injuries and arrests highlight the fifth day of government crackdown now directed at borders. Also ahead, we reveal the 3 firms that planned to sell tons of toxic maize to local millers. Plus,
mbeleni nilikuwa na resist, nakuja naangalia najitoa, nilikuwa naona tu ni ufala.
When a father's touch is the thin line between life and death for newborn babies. Also tonight,
kwa hivyo mimi I think nitakuwa mtu wa mkono wa uhuru kuanzia sasa.
Kalonzo's self-baptism in attempts to wipe away the watermelon tag.
Tunaona Kalonzo ameanza kukimbia kirudi nyuma.
And it's all about lunches and catwalks.
Tunaweza kurudi hata BP aende asimame na ODM na kuwe rais. Hakuna tabu wakikubaliana na baba.
Handshakes Soap Opera Season 2 on Bullseye.
NTV Weekend Edition with Smriti Vidyarthi.
And Zeynab Ismail will be coming to us live from the county of Nyandarua. More from her in just a moment. To our top story, David Agondoa is our sign language interpreter. Tonight, we can reveal the names of those behind the importation of bad maize into the country. Now, according to documents seen by NTV, General Cargo Services Limited in Mombasa, along with Mahindra and Mahindra South Africa Limited, imported and cleared over 100,000 bags of bad maize that were seized in Changamwe, Mombasa on Thursday. Now, a third firm, Consol Base, is believed to have stored the maize in 202 containers, even after the Kenya Bureau of Standards declared the maize unfit for human consumption and ordered it destroyed. Kevin has that update.
The 202 containers of maize were shipped into the country from Mozambique on a quarter tampan vessel in September 2017. The 40-feet containers, each carrying 520 bags of maize, were cleared at the port of Mombasa and over 2 million shillings of revenue remitted. Detectives have told NTV that their investigations uncovered a chain of firms that colluded to import and store the maize for more than a year. The detectives from the Special Crimes Prevention Unit tracked the consignment to Consol Base Limited, a container freight station in Changamwe, Mombasa County. Sources further indicate that the grain was to be sold at a throwaway price and that the owner was in negotiations with 2 local millers. A 90 kg bag of the grain was to be sold at 1,000 shillings. The Kenya Bureau of Standards tested the grain and confirmed that it was indeed unfit for human consumption after the results showed that the maize had aflatoxin. NTV was unable to get comments from the clearing agent, Kirti Shah, who locked himself inside his General Cargo Services Limited office for several hours. Police in Changamwe, stationed approximately 400 meters from the Consol Base Limited's container freight station where the containers have been stored, have also been put on the spot for not destroying the maize despite having the information that there were plans to sneak the maize into the market. Officers from the Special Crimes Prevention Unit are still on the trail of individuals believed to have been working on plans to sell the bad maize. NTV has also been informed that the grain might be destroyed this weekend, but the owner, who is believed to be using powerful forces within government, is seeking to stop the destruction. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
In other top stories making headlines, President Uhuru Kenyatta has once again warned NYS officials against plundering resources meant for the youth's benefit. The president says the diversion of funds to a few individuals must stop at all costs, and the government will do all it can to recover any stolen loot. Ken Majungu reports that his remarks come at a time when suspects involved in the NYS2 scandal are facing charges in court.
President Uhuru Kenyatta said it was deeply regrettable that funds meant for public use, especially those for the benefit of the youth, was being misused.
It is with deep regret when we see certain individuals who take resources that are meant to facilitate these young men and women and divert it to personal use. And this is something that we will not entertain.
More than R1 billion meant for the National Youth Service cannot be accounted for. 791 million shillings in the National Youth Service Scandal 1 and a further 300 million shillings in National Youth Service Scandal 2.
And I want to take this opportunity to promise you today that we will do everything in our power to ensure that all of those who have taken resources meant for the development of our young people, they will pay the price and those resources will be returned.
The president was speaking during the parcel parade for the National Youth Service servicemen and women in Gilgil.
I'm satisfied that all these recruits have completed their paramilitary course and are now ready to move to the next phase of the National Service. That will take them a year before they join the vocational training as per the 5-point vision, so that they can contribute to the Agenda 4.
And I want to encourage you, Madam Acting DG, and your management team. We will not and we cannot continue to allow this kind of behavior. Lakini, we must ensure that we utilize the resources that the Kenyan taxpayer has given us for the benefit of the people of this republic. Most importantly, these young men and women in front of us.
His remarks coming at a time when the Director of Public Prosecution hopes to nail alleged perpetrators of the National Youth Service Scandal 2. Former Youth PS Lilian Omolo, former Director General Richard Ndubai, and 35 others are currently on trial for the theft of the National Youth Service funds amounting to 226 million shillings. NYS 1 is still unresolved. Just a day ago, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, who was adversely mentioned in the scandal, reached out of court settlement with opposition leader Raila Odinga, who she had sued for defamation for linking her with the loss of the funds at the youth agency.
We hope that this matter, facts are going to come out in the process of the investigations which are being carried out by competent authorities.
In that matter, as of today, stands settled in the spirit of cohesion.
Parliament is also attempting to put in checks and balances. A bill presented to Parliament by Majority Leader Eden Duale that seeks to transform NYS into a state corporation, among other things, proposes an 11-member board with a strong state representation to oversight the scandal scarred National Youth Service. More than 4,000 young men and women graduated today. The ceremony was witnessed by their friends and relatives. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
Well, the Central Bank of Kenya has upheld penalties it imposed on 5 banks involved in the handling of cash linked to the National Youth Service scam. Now, in its September 12th, 2018 decision, the Central Bank fined Standard Chartered Bank, Equity Bank, Kenya Commercial Bank, Cooperative Bank and Diamond Trust Bank a total of 392.5 million shillings. Now, suspects in the NYS scam used those banks to transact funds. Well, today's decision follows the central bank's review of responses tabled by the affected banks in light of its September 2018 decision, with the market regulator saying the submissions were not sufficient to alter the penalties imposed. Well, it is expected that the penalties will help set up the country's fight against money laundering. The Senate Public Accounts Committee wants the Director of Public Prosecutions to investigate and recommend the arrest of Busia Governor Sospita Ojamong and his Trans Nzoia counterpart Patrick Kayemba for aiding the theft of hundreds of millions of shillings of public funds during their first term in office. The committee says in a report before Parliament that the two are part of a number of county chiefs whose tenures were marked by graft, as highlighted by the Office of the Auditor General. NTV's Silas Apollo with more.
According to the Senate Public Accounts Committee, Busia Governor Sospita Ojamong and his Trans Nzoia counterpart Patrick Kayemba presided over some of the worst corruption cases in the devolved unit. Their tenure was marred with irregular purchase of goods and services, unsupported expenditures and even payment of salaries to ghost workers. The report says Ojamong, who is currently facing corruption-related charges in court, was unable to account for some 352 million shillings that was said to have been held at the county's account at the Central Bank of Kenya. Ojamong's administration also paid some extra allowances worth 457,000 shillings to officials outside the law. PSC also wants the Director of Public Prosecutions to investigate Ojamong for failing to submit supporting documents for 7 million shillings the county says it paid to youth who were contracted to plant trees. Ojamong is also in trouble for failing to provide documents supporting payments of 16.7 million shillings, which was advanced to contractors and service providers responsible for organizing the Kenya Inter-County Sports and Cultural Association games in the county. Other charges include a failure to maintain proper human resources records that is blamed for the loss of 16.5 million shillings. His Trans Nzoia counterpart Kayemba has been accused of paying 45.2 million shillings to creditors taken over from the defunct local authorities. Kayemba also approved a payment of 29 million shillings to various firms for the hire of graders without proof of payment. The county also made payments totaling 129 million shillings to some firms for bush clearing, road grading and other road maintenances in various county wards without documents to support how the firms were identified and the contract sums determined. He also made irregular cash purchases amounting to 31 million shillings, paid another 23 million shillings for a 10-acre piece of land against the law. The governor also paid 13 million shillings to various insurance firms without any valuation done. The recommendations by the Public Accounts Committee, chaired by Homa Bay Senator Peter Kajwang, lift the lid on what critics have in the past termed as runaway corruption in counties. Its implementation and action by investigating agencies may breathe new life in the war against graft. Silas Apollo, NTV.
Still on corruption, former NOC chairman Kipchoge Keino is now officially a state witness in the Rio 2016 graft case. The legendary athlete's status was confirmed before Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti as the 6 accused persons, among them former Sports Cabinet Secretary Hassan Wario and former Principal Secretary Richard Ekai, denied the fresh charges in relation to the 55 million shilling scandal.
Former Sports Cabinet Secretary and Kenya's ambassador to Austria, Hassan Wario, was back in court to take a fresh plea in relation to the 55 million shillings Rio 2016 Olympics corruption case. This is after the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions acquitted former NOC chairman Kipchoge Keino, who was previously the 6th accused. In the old charge, the athletics legend had been accused of authorizing excess allowances amounting to 15.9 million shillings to Team Kenya members at the Rio 2016 Games. He'd also been separately charged with including his son Ian Kipkosgei Keino to the travelling team and improperly conferring 2.5 million shillings to him.
The prosecution is praying to amend the charge sheet.
Wario and his co-accused, former sports PS Richard Ekai, former NOC Secretary General Francis Kanyili Paul, the Rio Olympics chef de mission Stephen Soy, Director of Administration in the Sports Ministry Harun Komen, and former Finance Officer in the same ministry Patrick Kimanthi Nkabu, all pleaded not guilty to 6 counts of abuse of office. Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti was forced to push the pre-trial forward due to an impasse related to witness statements, with the defense lawyers claiming that they hadn't been supplied with documentation despite many visits to the DCI. A claim that the DPP countered, saying that only Wario's lawyer had made the trip to collect the statements. The former CS and his fellow co-accused are out on a cash bail of 1 million shillings. Ida Waringa, NTV, Nairobi.
Migori Governor Okoth Obado can now enjoy some freedom after he was released on a 200,000 shilling cash bail after spending another 2 nights in custody. Kibera Law Court Chief Magistrate Joyce Gandani ruled that the prosecution failed to establish compelling reasons to continue holding Obado in police custody.
After spending 2 nights at Gigiri Police Station, Migori Governor Okoth Obado is finally free again.
The respondent is granted bond of Kenya shilling 500,000 with a surety of a similar amount or a cash bail of 200,000. 3. The respondent is ordered not to interfere by himself or his agents with the ongoing investigations, failure of which the bond here will be cancelled.
Obado has been ordered to appear before the Directorate of Criminal Investigations once after every 2 weeks.
The notice of motion dated.
Chief Magistrate Joyce Gandani has also ordered Obado not to interfere with the ongoing investigations into the over 8 guns that were found at his Nairobi and rural homes.
And after considering all the factors here, I am satisfied that the respondent is not a flight risk and will appear for trial if need be, and is not likely to tamper with the evidence or witnesses.
The prosecution had asked the court to have Obado detained for a further 15 days. However, the court said they had failed to establish compelling reasons why he should be held further. Chief Magistrate Gandani also questioned why the prosecution did not take advantage of the 3 days the Migori governor has been in custody to record statements with witnesses in his absence. So far, no formal charges have been preferred against him in this firearm possession investigation. The governor is still entangled in a murder trial where he is facing charges of murdering Rongo University student Sharon Otieno and her unborn baby, charges that he denied and was released on bail.
Naona kama kuna wachache ambao wanataka kuniingiza kwa mdomo ya mamba. Nataka mniombee watumizi wa Mungu ambao wako hapa. Nataka mniombee zaidi ili hiyo mamba isinimeze.
Ever since Obado got bail after spending a month in industrial remand prison over the murder case, he has formed a new friendship with Deputy President William Ruto and has even hosted Ruto twice in Migori County, a move that has put him at loggerheads with the ODM leadership and supporters of opposition leader Raila Odinga. Vincent Odur, NTV.
Jubilee leaders now say they will overwhelmingly support and vote for the 2/3 gender rule bill, which Majority Leader Aden Duale is expected to table in Parliament on Tuesday. Now, Deputy President William Ruto rallied legislators to support it, saying it will address the issues of gender balance in the country. Well, the leaders spoke in Uasin Gishu County during a burial ceremony.
We need
Deputy President William Ruto has urged legislators, especially from the Jubilee Party, to support the 2/3 gender rule bill once it is brought before Parliament.
Tuesday, the whole country will be focused on the historic moment we have as a country to mainstream the participation of women in the leadership of Kenya. And we should be the last as men to stand in the way of our daughters, of our wives, or our mothers.
Leader of Majority Aden Duale assured that he would table the motion and ensure the gender equity law is passed.
Uliniita jana katika ofisi yako na uliniambia hii muswada ya 2/3 gender principle lazima tusukume.
Duale, tafadhali help us. I know you tried last time. You were not able to carry the ball to the finish line, but round hii naona itapita.
The leaders spoke in the heart of Uasin Gishu County during the burial of Mzee Paul Kibet, father of Deputy President Personal Aide Farouk Kibet. Here, the leaders from different regions pledged their support for William Ruto.
Sisi
tuko na mkataba na deputy president wetu, na sisi tunashikilia pale bila kelele. Sisi tunangojea wakati, na hakuna mtu anapanga mambo ingine.
Badala ya kufikiria mambo ya kuuza ng'ombe, wengine wananunua umbwa kule Lubao na nini, nikasema tena tuongeze urafiki wa siasa.
Lois Wangoi, NTV, in the county of Uasin Gishu.
Still on politics, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka is the latest high-ranking political leader to visit the nation's second president, that's Daniel Arap Moi, at his Kabarak home. Now, Moi, who has been ailing for some time, has been surrounded by family and friends, with his son, Senator Gideon Moi, receiving delegations of leaders to check on the former president.
The last year has been busy for the Moi family. Friends and well-wishers have streamed to the country's second president to see him, some seeking political wisdom, while others just to check on him. This afternoon, a delegation of Wiper Party officials led by party leader Kalonzo Musyoka were the latest high-ranking guests who made the Kabarak visit. Kalonzo, who flew into the former president's home, came bearing gifts for his hosts on this day. He was received by Moi's son, Baringo Senator Gideon Moi, and other leaders before sitting with the ex-president Moi for talks. But other than his health, what else was on the agenda?
He was in excellent spirit. He gave us absolutely good advice on national unity, and even advise the young ones amongst us on how to work slowly until they get there.
The Wiper leader was full of praise at the reception he and his team received at the Moi home.
I thought, in view of the wonderful reception and the excellent health and spirit we have found Mzee in, we need to tell the country Mzee is strong, has invited us to keep on coming.
The former president's home in Kabarak has played host to a number of important visitors. Former First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta has been among Moi's guests. The two have been photographed enjoying life at his home. ODM leader Raila Odinga has also been to see the man who he parted ways with politically in 2002. The two leaders are said to have discussed issues of national importance, including his newfound political partnership with President Uhuru Kenyatta. Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho also made the A-list with a number of leaders from the coast. Though many have had a chance to meet a man rarely seen in public, there are a few who are yet to make it to the privileged list.
Blocked from accessing the former president Daniel Arap Moi, his cabinet home. Discuss other more important issues. Okay, but I don't think those issues are relevant.
KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli and Devolution CS Eugene Umalwa have also had their time with former President Moi. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Well, there is so much more lined up for you in this broadcast. Remember that NTV is on the road. We're coming to you live from the county of Nyandarua. Zeynab Ismail will bring you the very latest from there after this short break.
Thank you so much for making time to join us. We are coming to you live from the Nyandarua Institute of Science and Technology. And of course, we have a lot from this great county. But before we take a look at the stories that we have lined up for you, one police officer is nursing injuries at the Isiolo County Referral Hospital after a clash between anti-riot police and border operators. The protest was against alleged harassment by traffic police officers. Similar scenes were witnessed in Baringo as matatu operators in Nairobi accused the police of undue harassment and going contrary to the NTSA's previous directive on graffiti. Malmiendo reports on the strains and frustrations of the enforcement of the traffic rules in various counties.
The burning remains of a heated Friday afternoon in Isiolo town. Smoke, sirens and tension share the atmosphere, sitting above the spread of stones. Border operators engaged police officers in running battles as the riders barricaded the busy Isiolo-Nanyuki highway with stones. In the back and forth, one police officer was shot and rushed to Isiolo County Referral Hospital. The police issued a stern warning to those involved in the altercation, adding that the crackdown on non-compliant motorists and border operators will continue. And more heat and conflict in Cabinet Town, Baringo County. Irate border operators also barricaded roads with stones and flaming logs and tires in protest of the seizing of over 100 motorbikes which were parked adjacent to the market.
We are going to continue the crackdown. The crackdown does not have different people. Everybody is subject to the law.
The government says it is not relenting on restoring order on the roads as it reiterates that the border operators are not going to be left out in the new enforcement drive.
What we've done is to try to restore what was there before. The rules, regulations and laws are still there. It's just that they are not being applied or people are not complying. So what we're doing now is to ensure there is total compliance.
But while the government is keen on ensuring compliance by public transport vehicles, various commuters felt the weight of the situation for the 5th day running in areas where few or no matatus were on the roads. Despite some matatu operators in the capital having complied, some are reluctant to provide the services, citing harassment from traffic police officers.
Polisi akilala kesho kutwa anakuja na sheria yake. Sasa anakushikia hiyo sheria. Mwingine anaambiwa miguu hayapatani, ate mguu moja ni oversize. Mguu ya basi miguu mbili moja inaweza kuwaje oversize? Hata yeye jiulize.
Unapata tukikuja kwa njia still unapata gari na mishipi, gari na kila kitu, but unapata tunashikwa bado.
Matatu operators are decrying the police insistence that they should remove all graffiti from their vehicles, despite the National Transport and Safety Authority statement that they are allowed to keep what is not on the windows. In Embu, 2,000 traffic offenders were arrested and arraigned, with 300 of these being matatu drivers. Those affected included drivers of proboxes and Sientas, while an additional 280 border operators had also been arrested. Malmiendo, NTV.
All right, and away from that, the government has extended the moratorium on logging in public and community forests for a further 1 year. The ban that has been in place since February of this year was effected to control the felling of trees as the water levels in the country's rivers dwindled. In a statement, Environment and Forestry Cabinet Secretary Kariako Tobeko says the 1 year extension will give the sector a chance to rehabilitate forests and critical water catchment areas. The extension comes amid complaints from timber and charcoal users who've had to dig deeper in their pockets to acquire these commodities due to their scarcity. The Environment CS has also ordered an immediate lifestyle audit of all Kenya Forest Service staff, as well as a thorough audit on their respective stations. KFS officers found culpable of reaping from illegal logging will be relieved of their duties and face criminal prosecution. Alright, now 1 out of 8 babies in Kenya are born prematurely. That is before 37 weeks. And as Kenya joined the world in celebrating the miracles and milestones of premature babies on World Prematurity Day, we look at how the kangaroo father care is saving the lives of these young ones. And we tell you of how a young city dad gives his all to ensure his preterm baby survives. Here's Eunice Omola with that story.
On 20th September, young and first-time father Nicholas Kioko received his firstborn child into the world. He was born a week before term and weighing slightly more than 2 loaves of bread. He now has to make several trips to the Mama Lucy Hospital to see and give care to his baby, born at 36 weeks.
Ile siku tu niliambiwa mtoi amezaliwa na bado hajafikisha siku. Ilibidi tu ni accept. Nikubali matokeo. Bado ni baraka kutoka kwa Sawa God. So after hiyo day, ikabidi tu nikuwe bado nakuja kuangalia venye anaendelea. Aka bado anaongeza kilo na nimsaidie bado kukangaroo mtoi.
His wife Patricia Mudhoni does not take for granted the support she receives from him.
Nilishtuka, sikuwa na expect mdogo hivyo sana. Kwa na expect mkubwa, lakini tena si mkubwa sana. Nasikia vizuri kwa sababu ninasupportiwa pia.
Ukishaanza kufanya na enjoy, unataka kufanya zaidi kwanza.
Every year, 15 million babies around the world are born prematurely. That is before 37 weeks of pregnancy. Kenya is ranked 15th globally in the number of premature births out of a total of 188 countries. These tiny babies, some weighing below 1,800 grams, lose heat at a high rate, and this not only hinders weight gain, it could also cause death. Hence the need for a consistent supply of heat from the caregiver for a minimum of 18 hours.
The estimate of daily weight gain when they are being kangarooed is between 20 to 30. That is the ile tumeweka kama standard. But you find when they are kangarooed well, they can even add as much as 50 grams in a day.
Much of the kangaroo care can be administered by both parents. Fathers have been hesitant to pick up the practice.
It is only that sometimes people get challenged because it depends with the families people come from. It is very encouraging if we see a father coming to give the support.
The kangaroo mother care technique has been rolled out in 30 counties in Kenya since its inception in 2014. Esther Mokwana, now a mother of 3, is the first ever beneficiary of this technique in Bungoma County since it was introduced 4 years ago. Eunice Omolo, NTV.
Fantastic report there by Eunice Omolo. But away from that, in what could possibly be a controversial stand, Catholic Bishop in charge of Embu Diocese, Bishop Paul Kariuki, now says the church may consider turning down requests for baptism for children whose parents have not registered with the National Health Fund insurance scheme. He also says parents may be required to display their NHIF cards before receiving Holy Communion. All this to drum up support for the government's universal health coverage plan. Listen.
Mtoto wako asibatizwe kama mzazi ana hii kadi. Kwa sababu sasa huyo mtoto umezaa akiwekeka kesho na amekuwa baptized, utampeleka hospitali wapi na una hiyo kadi? Makofi kwangu. Sitasema mambo ya kupokea kwa sababu hapo Baba Mtakatifu can punish me. Lakini I can also say before you come for Holy Communion, as you go for Holy Communion, usike kadi yako.
Alright, now more than 80% of potatoes consumed in Kenya come from Nyandarua County. Now the rich agricultural soils in this area are making it a prime hub for horticultural products. However, despite reaping much fruit from here, soils, the farmers of this county says the markets do not favor the investment they put into feeding the nation. And if it's Bridget Singano with the report.
The lush landscapes tell it all. We are at the heart of the country's potato-producing capital, Nyandarua County.
The last crop.
We find Peter Njoroge in one of the farms he is preparing for harvest. For the last 2 decades, Njoroge has been toiling in his farms to produce potatoes, but he says with every harvest, he has seen his profits dwindle, putting a strain on his resolve to keep working.
Unajua sasa hii broker wakija wanaleta hii magunia hii kama shuko inasikanishwa bei. Sasa ikishikanishwa inaongezwa kageni juu. Sasa ikishikanishwa na imna hiyo inatuka bei, huwezi hata ukihesabu hiyo gharama ya shamba huwezi pata kitu.
Viazi tunalima sana lakini bei iko chini sana. Na ile gunia kubwa ya kilo ka 150. Nataka wakuja watusaidie tuwe tukipima na kilo 50.
Aside from the flagship potatoes, this county also prides itself for its blooming dairy farming. Farmers both small and large scale supply milk for both domestic use and for export outside the county. However, for the small scale farmers, getting the produce to the market has been a challenge.
Ni vile tuna produce maziwa kwa wingi. Na most of the time inakuwa turned to waste. Barabara ni bovu kabisa. Si unaona mimi natolea nini maziwa kwa na punda. Kundani ni kubaya kabisa.
The county government now says it is keen to change the narrative for the hard-working farmers here.
They come up with the regulations that from very soon our potatoes will now be bought by weight. So it doesn't matter whether you want now a big bag or a small one, but it will be by weight, just the way we do maize.
We had discussions yesterday with the Honorable Jury at the COG, and that is one of the issues that was flagged out, that we must get rid of middlemen in milk industry and also in the crops industry, in the potatoes, vegetables and so on, so that farmers can be able to accrue benefits directly without going through middlemen.
The county hopes that by having a potato processing plant, they will be able to reduce post-harvest losses for the farmers and also create employment along the value addition chain. Potato farming in Nyandarua County is what is tea is to Kericho or coffee is to Nyeri counties. And for farmers like Njoroge, producing such a sack takes them so much more than what they earn from selling it in such quantities. And when you enjoy your plate of chips or your crisps, do know that most of it comes from this county. And for these farmers, they need to get benefits and values for their efforts to give you that satisfaction. Bridget Ngana, NTV, Nyandarua County.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Bridget Ngano, for that report. They say the potatoes from this area are quite very tasty. Now, farmers from this county are eagerly awaiting the revival of the railway in the county. The farmers are some of the main beneficiaries of an ambitious 25 billion shilling project cutting across 8 counties that seeks to revive the 240-kilometer railway line. NTV's Brenda Wanga reports.
Well, back in the 90s, it was very easy for this farmer to get his produce from the farm onto a train for onwards transmission outside of the county for more lucrative markets. But it has now been more than 3 decades since a train rode along these tracks.
The last time residents of parts of this county saw a train pass through the valleys of the county was in the mid-90s and briefly in 2005. The collapse of the railway service a big blow to the farmers here.
Tulikuwa tunafaidika sana juu vijana wetu, wazee wetu, watoto wetu walikuwa wanafanya kazi na hii reli.
Kutoka hapa mpaka Nyahururu ilikuwa inachukua maziwa. Ng'ombe kutoka Laikipia zote zilikuwa zinaletwa mpaka Nyahururu, sinapelekwa mpaka Athi River kutolewa ngozi na wananchi walikuwa wanapata pesa.
The line was constructed in the early 1900s with the sole aim of providing British forces with equipment. With the attainment of independence and the retreat of the colonialists, the railway morphed into a lifeline for the farmers in this agriculturally rich county. Governors from various counties that make up the Central Kenya Economic Bloc sought to have the line up and moving again. In 2017, the inaugural meeting to put pen to paper for this plan was held, and each county committed to investing 100 million shillings into the kitty that would make this dream a reality again.
In the blocks, in the economic blocks that I chair, the Central Kenya Bloc, and also the blocks in the upper eastern, Isiolo, we are thinking that we need to be interconnected, so the potatoes from Nyandarua can move to Isiolo, can move to Mandera, can move to Meru.
Months later, however, and little progress has been seen. The county of Nyandarua still remains hopeful and unfazed in its determination to see the old meter gauge railways active again. The waking up of the old locomotive is just the starting point in an ambitious plan by the regional bloc to link up its counties to the SGR that will see transport of goods ease up.
We don't need to immediately move into SGR as of now, but we can start off what we have, and as the SGR is completed, then these ones can be improved in moving forward. But as of now, they can operate in the position that they are in. We just need very minor rehabilitations. And that's what we are looking at with the national government. So the entire loop is done.
While the plan remains, the residents are keeping their fingers crossed that sooner rather than later, the trains, both new and old, will snake their way into the belly of the counties and the region's bread basket, cutting away produce and bringing back the much-needed money to develop the county further. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Alright, well, that brings us to the close of business from this side of the country. But of course, we'll be in Nyandarua County for the next few days until Monday, so you want to stay tuned. But we'll be taking a very short break. Dan Mwangi will be bringing you all news making headlines in the world of business. My name is Zeynab Ismail. Good evening.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Business. Dan Mwangi is my name. Now, Kenyan exporters have expressed their frustrations in penetrating the Chinese market, even as the government tries to address trade imbalance between the two nations. The exporters who are part of the delegation exhibiting Kenyan products during the first China International Exhibit Expo said that language barrier and shortage of funds to ensure value addition in the products they exported are among the issues stalling them from increasing their capacity to tap into the foreign market.
Even before the ink on the new trade agreement that is set to open doors for over 40% of Kenya's fresh produce dries, Kenyan exporters who attended the expo in China have relayed their concerns on issues standing in the way of the Kenya-China trade.
There were some challenges, for example, the need for product innovation. There is a lot of competition, especially from the South Asia markets. We need to improve our packaging. The use of translators was also a challenge. And also back home, the need to mobilize extra funds to be able to satisfy these coming orders.
China has been Africa's largest trading partner for 9 consecutive years, with imports from Africa hitting $65.6 billion in the first 8 months of 2018.
The balance of trade between Kenya and China is heavily in favor of China. In 2017, that's last year, the total volume of trade between the two countries was $4 billion. Kenya's export to China were valued at about $0.5 billion, which was just 2.5% of the total trade volume, while China exports to Kenya were 400 billion Kenya shillings.
China is, however, pledging support to Africa to boost trade for the two nations.
President Xi Jinping announced $60 billion to support China-Africa cooperation. In that 60 billion, around 5 billion is to support African companies to expand their product to China.
The traders are imploring on the government to come up with measures to help them increase and diversify their exports to the lucrative 1.3 billion Chinese market. Kenya imports goods worth about 300 billion from China, yet China, with a population of about 1.3 billion people, only imports goods worth about 10 billion shillings. Forums like the just concluded expo in Shanghai are being explored so that Kenyans can tap into this market and tilt this trade imbalance. Lillian Kerry, reporting for NTV Business in Nairobi.
Persons who have suffered delay in acquiring car registration plates can now heave a sigh of relief following resumption of the production of plates. The National Transport and Safety Authority now says production of plates has resumed, with the existing backlog set to be addressed within the next 5 days. NTSA has attributed the challenge faced in the recent past to shortage of raw material. Kenya Airways has reduced the frequency of flights to New York, citing low demand on the ultra-long-haul route. The airline says it has rationalized the trips for the winter season, and as such, flight numbers will be less than had been anticipated between November and March 2019. Alex Mwangi explains why the airline was compelled to do this on the newly introduced route.
Kenya Airways had scheduled daily flights to and from New York, but when the airline hit the air cruising, it was jolted by the reality on the ground, a reality of lower demand than anticipated. The airline has become the first in the East African region to fly non-stop to the United States, with an ultra-long-haul flight from the JKIA in Nairobi to New York's JFK International Airport.
It's actually been an interesting flight. The fact that it was a 15-hour flight was a little bit terrifying, 15 hours seated. But it's been a good experience. The ride is, the flight was very comfortable. Slept a lot, so you don't feel the difference in terms of time.
We also have reduced the time that we will be operating from Nairobi to US from 25 hours to less than 15 hours, which is a major milestone.
The long flight is comprised of 4 pilots and 12 flight attendants, who divide themselves into shifts to take care of its massive demands. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner requires 85 tons of fuel to make a one-way trip. It is these demands, coupled with the glacial pace of awareness among the citizens of Northern America, that has made the airline scale back on the frequency of its flights. Following the launch of the inaugural non-stop flight from Nairobi's JKIA to JFK International Airport here in New York, a number of forums have been kicked off not only to celebrate the event, but to have the Kenyan delegation from the government as well as the private sector meet businessmen from the US.
We need to market Kenya with now, so that this direct flights can be sustained.
It has potential to profoundly transform the Kenya-US relations by pushing for activities that create jobs, but most importantly, by connecting the East African coast to the United States.
Yet you have AGOA with almost 6,200 lines. We've only exploited about 20 lines. So can you imagine what this will do in terms of those other lines that are not exploited?
Just tell us the reason why you opted for this particular flight as opposed to any other option.
Yeah, I chose this flight mostly just because it was the cheapest option. I'm connecting to Dar through Nairobi, and previously I had flown to Dar but connecting in Amsterdam.
Actually, I chose it because it was direct from New York. I live in Montreal, so for me it was really easy to go to New York and then straight to Kenya.
Just this week, KQ announced that it will be flying daily to Mogadishu in Somalia, flights that were to begin on Thursday. But the airline has pushed the launch date to the 5th of December due to additional airline and operational requirements. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
A quick mention on the market, and investors at the Nairobi Securities Exchange lost 29.7 billion shillings worth of paper wealth in the 5 days to Friday's trade as the decline in the market prevailed. The NSE 20 share index closed Friday's trade at 2,806 points, with the market capitalization standing at 2.1 trillion shillings. At that point, business, myself, and the work week are all done. Have yourself a good night.
Thanks very much for staying with us. Now, it is the Handshakes soap opera season 2, and the shaking is happening amongst the most unlikely persons and quarters. With all the handshaking, job descriptions are also being written amid some serious political indigestion among some supporters. But it's all about survival, and as Emmanuel Juma now reports on Bullseye, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka has a new name and ask no questions, please.
Mimi mwenyewe nikaitwa watermelon kwa kusupport katiba. Mimi nimeona shida Kenya hii. Mimi mabandiko majina ambayo sio yangu.
Steve is tired of being baptized by others. If that's the case, do it yourself, Steve. How should we call you or refer to you?
Kwa hivyo mimi I think nitakuwa mtu wa mkono wa uhuru kuanzia sasa.
No more calling Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka watermelon. Just call him mtu wa mkono wa uhuru. Some could refer to that as kijakazi, kanda ya moko, handyman, etc.
Na mtu asiniulize maswali. Ukiniuliza utaniona, utajua mimi ni mang'aa kama baba yangu.
Mudhama, I see you are itching to say something.
Wakati Kalonzo alitangaza kuwa yeye ni mtu wa mkono wa Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, alimaanisha nini?
At my age now, I can't afford to play karata with politics.
Sasa tunaona watu wameambiwa on your marks, get set, go. Wamekimbia mita 2500. Tunaona Kalonzo ameanza kukimbia kirudi nyuma.
Confusing times indeed. Sometimes they attempt to rediscover those days when what was in the heart as opposed to what was in the hand mattered the most. But when handshakes started going around, things changed. Mudhama is not giving up.
Sasa mtasikia in the next 10 days kwamba NASA management imekutana, imeweka mambo pamoja. Raila, Tibim, Kalonzo, Tibim.
So Johnston, the 10 days came and lapsed. Did the summit happen?
I have to confess this. Nimeita Mudavadi, nimeita Kalonzo, nimeita Wetangula. Nikisema hivi Kalonzo anaenda hivi, Mudavadi anaenda hivi, Wetangula anaenda hivi.
These are the days when one can say handshakes are leading to shaky political times.
Safari ya Canaan bado ipo.
Talking of Canaan, what was it that led to Khalwale supporting the Canaan journey?
Mimi nikasema kama ni Canaan ile yenye mimi nilifundishwa, dunia yenye maziwa, yenye asali, matunda yote, hata huko wasichana wako tele, unachukua huyu unapadisha mwingine. Nikasema nitatembea na huyu bwana.
That is to say, Boni has discovered that all he was left holding were bones. He's looking for meat in other quarters.
Well, Mheshimiwa Deputy President, I'm telling you, I will stand with you. I'll campaign for you. Upate kura uwe rais wa Kenya. But do me one favor. Usitufanye vile Raila ametufanya bwana.
One day we'll ask Baba what exactly he did to Khalwale.
Mwenye bana merubaluya Mahoma kanalola.
It's all about the search for a new identity politically. Were these two wearing identical clothing? Maybe they are also on a journey to political rediscovery. It was simply a lunch though. Never mind that Murkomen get crushed, but many are the interpretations of what transpired.
Tunaweza kurudi hata BP aende asimame na ODM na kuwe rais. Hakuna tabu wakikubaliana na baba. Kwani iko nini? Wakakula chakula pamoja. Ndio wakatua akafunguliwa macho akasema kumbe huyu mtu ni mzuri sana, Kenya wanamtaka kuwa president ya nchi.
Juzi tumewaambia tena kwa heshima kubwa, kwa vile huyu amewawahi pande ile, sasa kujeni hapa haraka haraka kwa hasla hapa. Tutakuja. Tena mungwana ametoka huko, umeona juzi anakula lunch.
Never a dull moment in Kenya's politics. How are you feeling, Bwana Obado?
Spiritually, I'm alright. Ile ingine ndio mbaya kwangu, lakini spiritually I'm alright.
Mambo bado for Obado indeed. And much as he's running, he simply cannot hide. And then there was this walk. A walk that one William Samoei Ruto once described as thus.
Ukiingereza mingi mwazifanyia catwalk hapa around na ni wazi pesa ya umma imepotea.
Well, that catwalk was leading Anna to Baba. It was a case of I forgive you and letting bygones be bygones. Another handshake. And unbelievable Anna can dance on. Let's just say, unbelievable has done it again. Emmanuel Juma, Bullseye, NTV.